Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, he's back. It's my co-host Tom. His microphone's finally working. They would say, and like Tom's going to tell you, look, it's not my fault. The computer wouldn't recognize the microphone, and that's right. He's right. That's not his fault. What is his fault is that he didn't join early enough to troubleshoot any technical challenges before he delayed the start of the show. Prior planning prevents poor performance. So, at any rate, hey Tom, how you doing?
Hello, friends. Is he always this grouchy? Like,
I am
Vince,
not
why are you in a
grouchy at
bad
all.
mood?
I'm in a
Why are
great
you
mood.
always in a bad mood? You're so negative.
Yes, I am. I know. I know. I'm in a great mood. Actually. Well, also, I mean, I did have an extremely long day today, but beyond that, it's okay. I'm here with all of you, so how could I not be happy? Like, this is the thing that keeps me afloat. As I was in like 7 hours of business planning today, and that was just like part of my day.
What
So
was just thinking about the show tonight?
yeah, the fact that I get to do this is fun, right? Yeah.
You're gonna be disappointed.
Oh no, I hope not. All right. So, at any rate, we're going to talk about the AoS meta, the current state of it. I think there's some fascinating data in here, and we're going to have a discussion. But of course, first, the news.
I love data, and I look forward to us covering that. But before we get
Absolutely.
to that, obviously, let's do the rumor engine.
Yeah, yeah, we got a little rumor engine action, but boom, there it is. This is exactly the kind of rumor engine I don't like because I couldn't tell you. Is this like meant to be 40k AOS? Could be. Could be a KO thing. Probably a 40k thing. Maybe not. Who knows? Hard to say. Could be anything. Could be a Necromunda thing.
Yep.
Harpoon guns are like, this is kind of what it looks like. It's like a harpoonish gun. It's a thing across all games. What I know is that GW loves harpoons. That I'm sure of.
This is clearly Chaos Dwarves. Chaos Dwarden.
Is that what it is?
Yep. It's the flames. Do you see the flames? Like, yeah, it's a harpoon, not really. Those are like little wavy flames. That's what that is.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, we got plenty of news, so we're not going to linger on it. What else we got?
Yeah, we also have a Golden Demon update. That's kind of exciting for not me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's exciting for some people, but I am like legitimately pleased about this one baby step they've taken towards professionalizing this competition and bringing it in line with how basically all other professional miniature painting competitions work. Something they are still sadly lacking far behind. Something they
Weird.
used to be the leader of, but they're just not. They survive on name recognition alone now. At any rate, they finally standardized the way that their actual category, like award levels work.
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
their extreme, like the problem is that most miniature painting competitions have moved to the open system. Okay.
Sure.
Because as talent has skyrocketed in the past like 5 to 8 years due to
Sure.
the internet, the reality is at the top end at most painting competitions, it becomes really, really hard to separate these things without being pretty like punitively incidental or arbitrary. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
open systems just go, look, these five, they're all like really close. They're all really good. We can maybe find some incrementally arbitrary thing to differentiate them, but that would be insulting to the artist, right? So instead,
Right.
they're all gold because they're all just like, they're all 10 out of 10s. We've got to go out to the fifth decimal place to find a difference,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
that's not how GW works, and frankly, it's fine. I don't mind that there's still like a first past the post competition. The problem is they want to compete with the open system, so they need these different levels of awards. There's the three demons on top, then finalists, then commended, then notables. This is a good thing in the end, I think, because it does encourage people to come back. Like if they win a notable one year and then try harder and they get a commended the
Yeah.
next year, that's good. They can see growth. This is one of the classic problems with Golden Demon is like if you were fourth or 100th, it was really hard to tell the difference, right? Effectively.
Mhm.
Um, so this is good, but now they've got these weird little pins. So this is the new pins. Are these
Yep.
just going to be made of like little plastic? Is that what these are? Are these just like little plastic pins you get? I would
You
imagine
can
so.
bet your bottom that they're not metal. They might
No.
even be stickers.
Yeah, like is this just a little sticker pin, Pin, right? I
Maybe.
really hope so. I hope they look as cheap as they look here in this picture. To say like, look, you painted, you spent a lot of time, many hours of your life. Here is 6 cents.
We
That
are
I
proud of you.
Well done. Not that the monetary value of the thing matters at all. Like most of the time you're competing for an acrylic trophy you can just go buy from the trophy store.
Correct.
It's just like they look especially cheap. So I like the structure. Maybe send that one back through the marketing department for another go around on what those are going to look like. But anyways, that's good.
Yeah.
They also announced that Roman will be stepping in as guest judge. I like that. Roman's a great judge. He's a very experienced judge. The question would be how much input does he have over the other people who are there who are not experienced judges? In my and like, you know, Roman's a very kind person. He is going to effectively work with them very collaboratively. I imagine even if they have stupid opinions. So whatever. Just let him judge it. I think that would be better. But at any rate. So, but it's good steps. It's improvement. So there you go. Good. Congratulations. Now keep going. Keep making your competition more professional. All right, I've done my piece on Golden Demon.
Are you going to compete now?
No. I mean, am I going to put anything in the case? Yes, I have a knight that I'll probably put in the case. I don't care.
Are these pins going to do it for you?
No. I did not paint the knight for Golden Demon. Until they fix the competition, I will never paint anything for Golden Demon. If I incidentally paint something that I was going to bring with me anyways, I'll put it in the cabinet because who cares? I just don't. I'd like whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It'll just go in there. So I put a thing in there. That's it. So.
Yep. That's what I expected.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's move on to our next news item.
Yeah.
GW printed published some narrative scenarios for Old World, which is kind of exciting. Like, why can't they do this for AoS?
This is what I was saying. Hold on, I want to answer a question real quick. Chris H said, do you think Squidmar's competition getting that ridiculous number of entries push this? No, I don't think so, Chris H. I don't think they care about like any specific other competition. It's not actually that weird. Most major painting competitions have more entries than Golden Demon. So that's not rare. Like Contrast has, I think, 5,000 or something crazy that Christoph and his team judge. Even Capital Palette at Nova crushes Golden Demon as far as the number of entries go. So like that's not unusual. Golden Demon being GW specific and like having a very specific aesthetic they sort of favor and stuff like that means they get less entries. That's just the nature of the thing. So it's not weird. They also don't have like different levels for like most of these competitions have different levels for different skill and stuff like that. You can enter in like standard or masters and things of that kind of stuff. There you go. That's all it is. Okay, cool. It wouldn't matter if they switch system to me, Charles. They can say first past the post or open. What matters is do they run the system correctly and provide the proper operational and logistical support. That's what actually matters to me. So, okay. They could run an open system badly just as easily as they can run a first past the post badly. So at any rate, yes, back to your thing. Look at this. Seize the tower, homie. There it is.
I know.
There's a whole bunch of them. You can just download the PDF right now off the website. These are cool too. I read over them. I really like them. They're fun. They remind me of some like battle plans I played in the past in Warhammer Fantasy that were narrative. Certainly they're harkening back to a lot of old classics here, which is some minor tweaks and updates.
This Seize the Tower is like super Battle Masters.
Yeah, dude.
Like a resonant.
Yeah. So like they should put out battle plans just like this. No other thing necessary. Here's just a battle plan that's a little more narrative. This is great. And it's just on the website. You just download the PDF and go have fun in your games. Awesome.
Yep. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, more of this, please. This is wonderful. I was stoked about this.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And then we also have, that's right, folks, the flood of terrain and manifestation continues. They announced the new terrain for Soulblight Gravelords. That is actually a double kit for Night Haunt, which is the most hilarious thing that I think they've done in a while.
Yep.
As well as their new endless spells.
Yeah, so let's talk this through. When they first showed it off, there was a bunch of people who were like, wait, isn't this the Garden of Moor? And the answer is
not really.
Yes, but
kind of.
Also no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like clearly, yes, this is the Garden of Moor, but it's not the exact Garden of Moor, right?
Well,
like the bases are different. It's been resculpted. This is a different thing. Like, but it's obviously very similar to that kit.
I would say, if you'll remember, Vince, I have probably the best Garden of Moor painted in the world.
I see.
And I lavished so much time on that
You
terrain.
do know that Kit, that Bleep Bloop, used some of the Garden of Moor in his painting, right?
Yeah, but not really. Like, that doesn't count.
And you do know that his army is like the best death army in the United
Ble-
States.
Bleep doesn't count. I love you.
Okay.
That doesn't count. That's not real because it's not actually terrain. It's on somebody else's base. That's
he has them on his display board as well. But continue.
But yes, this is not the Garden of Moor, to be very clear. It has been inspired by it. It has used some of the CAD files of it. It is not that.
Yeah, sure. Hey, just some dude. Thank you for the super chat. Throwing $5 in, saying finally able to catch Warhammer Weekly hype. Heck yeah, just some dude. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and super chat, folks. Go ahead.
What do you think about the endless spell? Like, okay,
I want to stick on the garden for a second here. I want to split this up. I want to split this up.
Yeah,
I'll start on the garden first.
Yeah.
This is hilarious to me. So this is going to be your terrain.
Sure.
You're going to place these around and be able to resurrect people near them.
I would assume so.
That's what's going to happen here. Okay.
Yep.
And they are just little dorky buildings that you're going to place around. Fine.
That they're going to get destroyed.
That they're going to get destroyed. 100%. Yes. Like they'll get picked up. Okay. And they look like what they look like, Tom, is someone's conversion of the Garden of Moor. Like someone who got the Garden of Moor and was like, I'm going to spice this up a little bit. And, you know, they talked about how you can do it with the roof or without. Fine, whatever.
Yep.
The funniest part to me is that they were like, look, we can't be bothered to think of two separate terrains for Soulblight and Nighthaunt because they're the same army. It's just dead people who swarm around. And so they're like, you know what? Same building. Just paint them green. Done. Call it a day.
They're not actually the same. To be clear,
you can flip the building side so that one side has Nighthaunt iconography and one side has Soulblight iconography. They're the same building. Corporate wants you to find the difference between these two pictures. They're the same picture.
One has dead vines. One has vines with flower blooms on them.
Yes, this is true.
I wouldn't call the black and red flames. One has green flames.
Very good. You would have done well with Highlights magazine. You know that the Croak, whatever, the Seraphon temple could be inverted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I knew.
Okay. Yeah. That didn't make it two separate kits. It was still just one thing.
No, one is for Seraphon. One is for an army that is forthcoming. You just didn't know that yet. Like they were playing the long game.
Yeah. I agree. It is time to combine their battle tomes. I say we go back to 1996 and just make Death or what it was called, but just dead things, whatever it was called.
It's a real legitimate question.
Legions of Nagash, something. Anyway,
like, why are the Auric War Clan separated and then these are shared, or these are separate? Yeah, like why are they shared versus separated and etc. It's the worst. Anyways, it's fine. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna buy one set and then use it for whatever army I'm playing, which is what I did with the Orc Tower too.
Sure. In defense of these things, they actually are cute little pieces of small terrain for your table. Like one of the challenges I always run into when I use the terrain maps, and I do use the terrain maps pretty standard when I play, just because it makes the setting up the table easy, is the small places of power. Like there's not actually a lot of terrain that I have that fits the small places of power.
Oh man, I have some great small places of power stuff.
Sure. But these are good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good small
I have the old stairs. Do you remember the old stairs that were like up to an altar? With the Grim Reapers out of the stone. I have those that I use for the small terrain pieces.
Ian Curtis, I hope they give KO a set of manifestations and no way to actually summon them. That's what I'm hoping for.
No, they're going to be machinations. That's what they're going to be, and they're going to be not manifestations, just like we have not invocations.
Right. Bart's Wargaming says, I don't know, I kind of like it, but I also hate how each army has $120 tax for terrain and endless spells. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I like we went on a whole rant last week, Tom and I, about why we think faction terrain is bad and I will die on this hill. I think it is terrible in every way, shape, and form. So
Yeah,
there you go.
I watched it. It was good.
Good. So anyways, that's that. Now let's talk about the endless spells. Okay, so we got 3 goofy endless spells here. A swarm of bats, a big giant goofy looking hand, and apparently a vampire, I guess, which I am to know from his armor, I suppose.
But he's melting out of that.
Yeah, he's meant to be like raising. Like, oh.
Is that mist or is that goo from his like liquefied remains?
I do not have an answer for you. I got nothing. I just think that these 3, the swarm of bats is honestly the best one. These 3 look goofy as all get out.
Yep.
I disagree, Tomb King Tristan. The hand looks so silly. That looks so silly. Like, just the giant bone hand with, like,
I would rather have Nagash's head.
It's so minimal on the detail that's rendered on it. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, it looks like something you bought at,
Play store.
Halloween.
Like
what's the Halloween store? Halloween Town or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Spirit Halloween. There we go. It's so low render as to its detail. It looks like a Spirit Halloween decoration. Okay. Like, if they had actually rendered it with like actual detail, everybody's saying you like the hand. Okay, folks, look at this. What is this? Do you disagree with me that this is rendered in very low like this is like low poly. This is some PlayStation 1 era graphics here. Okay? Like the chunks, everything is just scaled up. It took like you took a normal basically skeleton hand and just sized it up times 10, 20 something.
Right.
Okay.
It's missing detail. It's missing actually like meaningful cracks or texture in the bone.
Yes, correct. Anyways, I think it looks goofball. But if you like it, I won't yuck your yum anymore. I'll just say I'm glad. I do think the vampire.
All I can do is hear friend.
Yeah. Cool. Says I wasn't keen on it, but now you're selling it to me with the PS1 pitch. Fair enough. I do think the vampire looks silly as well. And yes, I hate the goop. More painting air. And all of these, you're just like you're gonna be painting some amount of air. Every one of them has air you have to paint. So, anyways, that's fine. No matter what you think of them, how they look, did you read the rules for them, Tom?
I mean, kind of. Like I skimmed the rules enough to go.
Yeah. So, I don't know if it's all the rules, nor do we know what they summon on.
Sure.
Okay. The hand is a flip a coin if it's near something. Like, I don't know what their attack profiles are. In the combat phase, you flip a coin, and then either they get a control score of 1 or they can't move. Well, no matter what you pick, you're just forcing them to beat the crap out of the hand. So, okay. Like, that's what's going to happen.
But
yes, Cast, I agree. The rules are, like, boring and bad. I agree. The vampire guy, you have to be there. You can either, like, heal D3 in the combat phase or Zod it out of existence for +1 attacks, which is only good on your big
one hero.
Big heroes. Yeah.
Yes.
Like any multi-attacking hero. Sergeant Orc with the super
have
chat.
5 attacks on 3s and 3s, -1 D3 damage or 2 damage or whatever. Like you're adding one of those attacks. It's not affecting your companion's weapons.
Yeah. Sergeant Orc with a super chat saying, I want a faction terrain with no powers. I just want a table full of terrain to match my army. Now, Sergeant Orc, that I can get behind. 100%. Tom and I have been saying forever that they should either be releasing army-specific terrain or like realm-specific terrain, right? Yeah. Like, I want to be able to make my Shaiish board, my Haiish board, and so on and so forth, right? Like, I can't believe they don't have pre-made kits that you can just go buy.
We got a glimpse of it in 3rd edition with the box, the terrain box that had the like the narrative box that was all terrain of Gur, right? Yeah. That had what the original incarnate came in.
Yeah.
Like that's the closest we've had to what they should be doing.
Yeah, and I agree, by the way. Robert Mulshine pointed out, and I agree with this, that the Vengorian Lord is probably the best target for the vampire snuff out thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
they have their whole monster profile, right?
Yep.
But at any rate, like from reading the rules on preview, and obviously that's not everything, right? These look really pretty underwhelming. And
Yeah.
as long as Morbid and Primal still exist, get out of here with these.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, well, don't need to buy these. And on
Right.
top of that, let's just say that there are generalist manifestation lures that are better themed to Nagash than these.
This is true. This is true. Absolutely. Yeah, because of that whole forbidden power, whatever it's called, the second wave, which was clearly meant to be a manifestation lore specifically for for legions or whatever, and then things got mixed up. They had to now design a second round of manifestations for the dead people, and they were like, I don't know, man, we're out of ideas. A big hand.
We already got Nagash's head in his black pyramids. Let's go with a hand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there you go. The real question is, will you be able to model the hand upside down with one finger up? Yeah, sure, probably. I'm sure you could break that around and repose it 100%.
Bringing me back around on these.
Yeah, the model's so simple. It can't be that hard. Yeah, I'm sure you could do it.
You have my attention.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, anyways, the rules look bad. I think the models look bad. Your mileage may vary on that. There you go. So, great stuff.
Heaven forbid we get to a situation like what CW Kreiner said, where they don't last the year. Like if we get to the point where they kill the generic lores,
sure,
right? Because everybody has their own lore. Man, it's going to be a feel bad for some armies. Because some armies are going to have they'll be like, yeah, fine. Orcs are like, cool, I'm in. You know, this is great. Yeah, and then other people will be like, womp womp womp.
They still should. Life. They should kill the generics, and because they obviously can't produce them in high enough counts for what people want to buy them. They should kill the generics and then actually balance the base ones. These can have any rules you want. Like, you just change them. It's pretty easy. So, there you go. Jason says, I cast Finger of Death. Yeah, there you go. Yep. There you go.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Did we have anything else? Was there anything? Oh, yeah, there was one more thing, Tom, of course. That's right. How could I forget? The FAQ. Alrighty. Boy, so many news items. It's a bounty of news this week, Tom.
I'm here.
All right. We're going to zoom through this because there's a lot of little stuff, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to scroll. I pre-read all this to make sure I understood everything, so I'm just going to scroll quickly down to the stuff that actually changed. But it's going to be a lot of scrolling, folks. I apologize because, that's how this is now. This is the world.
This is the world we live in now.
All right, here we go. So start with some Skaven. A couple good changes here. The Master Molder, who always should have been a bonus hero, is now a bonus hero. This is a good thing. Like he was the weird standout who, like, as a non-caster, non-priest, that for some reason wasn't a bonus hero. It kind of made Molder suck here, so that was good. And then the Verminlord Warbringer can now take the Verminous bonus heroes, which is cool. So that's good. Those are two little changes, two little quality of life changes that were good. Not like shaking the world, but nice. Good changes. Okie dokie. And then we scroll. Here we go. Okay, Gits. So Kragnos can now take his little top dog and the Moon Clan Agitator. There you go. Basically like loon bosses and stuff like that.
Yep.
The loon boss can take the Doom Diver Catapult. That's fun. And Skragrot can also take the top dog and a Moon Clan Agitator.
Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely. I appreciate that where we've got these heroes, because sometimes they'll split the bonus heroes into like two different named things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine when they do that, because like, yes, sometimes you want to be that specific with them, but I'd prefer if like the army overseers just all had take either. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case in all the armies still.
Yeah.
So there you go. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and then Snarlfang Riders went down to 120. So that's cool. I think you're going to see people take the wolf stuff, by the way. I really do.
It's so funny. I got my book today.
Sure.
But I didn't get the box because I didn't want them. And then I was building a Cruel Boys list, and I was like, they would make a really good regiment
go.
for prospectors. And I was almost sad I didn't buy the box. Almost.
There you go.
Because I just went for big pigs, and I think
Sure.
big pigs would be the right answer.
No, that's fine. Wolves going down more is hilarious. Yeah, this is like the Snowfang Riders, not the Snowpack Cavalry, but still, I do think you're going to see people like spam the wolves pretty heavily, so we'll see.
Yep.
Okay, where are we at here? Next thing. Here we go. We have our two new destruction regiments. So the Shine Steelers, which is the box set, it's 500 points. Honestly, I stand behind it as being an interesting choice in still several armies within destruction at 500 points. I think that's fine.
For which ones?
The Shine Steelers, the Snarl Boss, the Wolfgate Retinue, the Snarlpack Cav.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Snarlpack Cav,
Yeah, you're saying that the
the
Regiment of Renown.
The Regiment of Renown, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was actually considering for my Cool Boys as a possibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do think it's quite valid, especially in like Suns or potentially Iron Jaws. I think it's actually a pretty interesting include in both of those. So
agreed.
And then there's Skullcrick's Loon Lads, which is bad, but it's 340, so who cares? No one's ever going to take it. It's terrible. All right, we're not going to worry about Legends because they don't, so I'm not going to.
It's true.
All right. Then we come to this thing, which is this deletion, and reaction change. I'm going to tell everybody right now, ignore this. Just ignore this. Ignore this update. This will change. This caused such a firestorm today because it mechanically is just a big problem. Okay?
Yep.
And so, like, it is going to get rewritten. I saw what the discussion today. It is a mess. It does not work how they think it works. It will be rewritten. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I thought it was all simply like you go, I go. Right? Like the active player, the secondary player. Yeah. But like is the problem in all out attack and all out defense as reactions rather than as I don't know.
Yeah, so the issue here is they're trying to avoid a thing that breaks the rest of the game when they stop it, right? So where a player passes on using all-out attack until they know whether their opponent is using all-out defense and so on, right? Because they're in the loop of reactions. And the problem here is that we don't have the stack and priority, right?
Correct.
Because if we had the stack and priority, it wouldn't matter. You would know, like, every time they took an action, then if it was using the stack, it would invite priority.
A reaction, yeah.
Right? And we're like halfway there. And so then we get these weird rulings that doesn't make sense with the rest of it. So anyways, don't worry. Ignore it. I'm sure it will get rewritten. There we go. Next. Moving on. I'm not even going to try to unpack it because it's literally not worth fighting about it. It'll be reprinted in a week or two. Whatever. A little clarification of can you move and then use a setup, because you can't move after a setup, and the answer is yes. Like, sure, you can move to the teleporty thing and then teleport, yes. I think we all thought that. This wasn't actually a change, this one right here. This was just a deletion of a incorrect answer that countermanded the previous answer of the covering fire redeploy thing. So
yeah.
That's all that was. It's not actually a change. You can still use covering fire if you have run and charge, and you can't otherwise if you run, and so on. Okay. Or run and shoot, sorry.
Yep.
Apologize. I don't know what the prized beast changed was. It says it's updated. I read over it. I didn't catch what the difference was. I get maybe it's because did they add not reinforced? Is that what changed? I don't know. Maybe. I can't remember what it. I can't like. It's basically still the same thing. It's battle damaged and 1 to hit rolls for. So it's doing the same thing. I don't know if it just stopped the reinforced thing. I don't remember it well enough to say, but it's still functionally doing the same thing in the vast majority of the cases. Gut Rot Spume just got a little clarification on when he can do his ambush thing and what has to be set up or not. No big deal. Okay, here we go. Gargan Charge. So this is actually a pretty decent change. This is actually like 3 changes snuck into here. Okay, yeah. So the reinforced change was the change. I was right. Okay, I thought so. That's fine. All right. So Gargan Charge, the way it works now is, so what changed? What changed is, you, it expanded its range out to effectively 3 inches. Okay. But so that's good. It used to be shorter. Bad is it no longer affects all the units within, because it used to be all units within 1 inch. Now it's 1 unit within 3 inches.
Yep.
And you can't multi-ball a unit. Okay. Now, why was this nerf necessary? I don't know. Was it a real problem? The Giants charging with their 4 units? When, you know, the ogres are out here just like multi-balling 8 or 9 units that do more mortal damage than this on the charge, and they're a bad army. Like, I'm not trying to like smash the ogres here. I'm not meaning for them to catch a stray, right?
Yep.
But like, okay, this didn't feel like it needed a nerf. Who cares is the answer, but sure, why not? Varg Skier is not on the list of units in first of the Virkos. That's fine. Multi-balling is a human right. That's right, Haywo. I agree. So apparently that's why Giants don't get to do it. But I guess ogres are still close enough they count as humans. So there you go. There's a couple cleanups here for Kharadron Overlords and the Assault Boat.
And the
can it use, can it use its Assault Boat if it ran in the same turn? Yes. Can I use it in combination with Countercharge? Yes. We had to explain how adding 2 to a D3 roll works here, because some people are very pedantic. I saw I've seen the discussions of this. It is hilarious to me that people overread like this. Like, they say add 2 to the roll. You're rolling a D3. Well, that obviously means I'm supposed to actually roll a D6, add 2, then have it. No, it doesn't.
No, it's a roll a D3, add
Right.
2.
Exactly. So anyways, they just clarified that is how that works.
What it says, correct.
Yeah. The Cunning Crew change, which comes back up later. Here we have our Gloomspike Geats changes.
Poor web spinner shaman.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Back to 2 again.
Almost got him.
Almost got him. Yeah, exactly. So the Kragnos had a change that he maxes out at 3 units for his +1 dice. Okay. So not everything gets his bonus.
Sure. Whatever.
The Drogs got his little scamper ability, like just some timing update on it.
Yep.
So it works better. And then the Army of Renown to Kings gets in this like, oops, we forgot how our own rules work.
Can I point something out though for Drogs?
Yeah, sure.
It's not keyword bound at all.
Yes.
So you can do it with squigs or anything else.
Yep, that's right.
Which is exciting.
So it is exciting. I think Drogs rules. I'm serious. Like, I think he's a good piece. He's a good tech piece. It's still like a once a turn flip a coin thing, but it's fine.
No, can I drill down on this?
Sure, go for it.
So Drogs is coming in the tome, right?
Yeah.
Like, not the tome, in the Regiment Around as well? Like, he comes
No, he's not in the Regiment of Renown, no.
He's not in the Regiment Around? Okay, sorry.
No, he's
for
not.
For some reason I thought he's not.
No,
the
it's the other stuff. No.
Okay.
He's not part of it because he's like 260 points on his own.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have the book right next to you. Open it up. Did it change more? Time to Scarper? Oh, that's right. This did change a bunch. I should have went back and read the original ability. That's right. This was the once. I am totally wrong. I thought this was a different ability. Okay. So what this is this used to be the once per game, just run away ability. Now it's a once per turn after you fight, with a guy you can run away ability. So yeah, you're right, Tomb King Tristan. I'm sorry. I had this switched with a different guy's ability in my head. So yes, this is like way different, right?
Yeah.
Because it used to be unit activated once per game, you got to flip a coin, and if you won the flip, that unit lived. Right? Now it's once per turn. After you fight, you flip a coin, and maybe you run away.
Yes.
Okay. Way worse. But I mean, also, who cares? It was a flip a coin once a game anyways. So I guess it's a lateral move, but it is way different. Thank you, Tristan, for catching me on that. Appreciate it.
It is it's just the plain snarl boss. It's not Drogs.
Yeah. Very good. Good catch. Yeah, I was thinking in my head that had been swapped out. There's another one that had like a runaway ability, and I was thinking it was that one. But there you go. Okay. My favorite change, Tom, is the Army of Renown for the King's Gits. So you remember that one doesn't work, right? Because
Yeah.
because you can summon the Malevolent Moon, which makes you count as being under the light of the bad moon, and then you have to go find what that means, and the game errors out and gives you an error 404, and the game blue screens because it's not in your army. And so they realize that and go, what are we going to do here? I know. We'll just make it so that basic crappy ability that's at the beginning of the thing, where you basically get the two abilities from the moon, right? Yeah. For the troll side and the moon clan side. You get it while you're within 9 inches of Skragrot or a Malevolent Moon or the Loon Shrine. Okay. So that's very funny to me. Good change, I guess. It works. It does something. They made it do something. So that's nice.
Yep.
I agree, Tristan. It was like the dream was, he says you could bait out a chosen double activation. Yeah, sure. Like Varangard charger unit or chosen charger unit. You get a chance to flip a coin and waste their turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's neat. Mm-hmm. But now it's gone. I mean, because they're just going to activate first on you if they think you have a chance of doing that. So anyways, that's your changes there for the Gloomspite Gits. Some other ones for Auric War Clans. Tom, you got to be happy about this one.
Man, I saw.
Yeah, good. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I saw it and I was like, oh, I get to use my ability again.
Exactly, it's back, baby. Yeah, so your sneaky sneaking is now once per turn army, your movement phase. Yes,
that's fine. They didn't need to double nerf it. Like that was the problem. Just move it to our movement phase. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I accept.
Kill KO says, starting my Archeon model. Any suggestions on where to start painting this monster? Yeah, sure. So keep Archeon separate from the monster if you can, from Drogar. And then, like if you've got an airbrush, go to town on the big monster. If not, a big dry brush is going to be your best friend, right? Yeah. But, focus in on the square footage of the monster. He has a lot of samey texture and stuff on him, like his scales and his tum-tum and his wings. So it's a lot of square footage, but it's very samey, so you can attack it with simple, simple tools, simple processes. And once you get the big dragon done first, you're going to feel really good. And then you can really invest time. You should invest, honestly, about the same amount of time into Archeon himself as you did into the whole Drogar. And you can spend a lot more time on him, and that will help you kind of have a really good looking Archeon. Because if the monster is just, decent, but Archeon looks really awesome, it'll look cool as a model. There you go. That's my answer. Hope that helps, and thanks for the super chat, Kilko. Really appreciated. Okay.
So I have to ask.
Yeah.
Gorgruntas.
Yes.
Tusks down to 4+.
Down to 4 up. Let us celebrate this completely average attacking monster now. Yes. Yay.
Okay. Does that move the needle?
No, but it's better. It's better than 5. It's still bad, but it's better than 5.
It is better than 5.
Getting kicked in the shins is still better than getting kicked in the nards. That's my answer, Tom.
It's true. It's true. So should the Maw-Gruntas also be on 4s?
Yes, for their trotters. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
For these war mounts, yes, Tom. They should be on at least 4s. For the war mounts. that are giant monsters trained to ride into battle and go to war.
This isn't the battle scroll, is it?
What do you mean? No. Oh,
Like,
no. That's next month. No, this is just the monthly FAQ.
okay.
Okay.
Maybe next month.
Sure,
Sorry, Big
absolutely.
Pig. Maybe next month.
I don't know what changed with the Snatcher boss on Slug Raker Beast, Tom. What changed here? It now says change the declare step of Festering Wounds to pick up to 3 enemy units that had any damage points allocated to them this turn by attacks made by this unit or a friendly unit with the Sludge Raker Venom keyword to be the targets.
I think it was only units before with the Sludge Raker and not this unit. Maybe.
Okay. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't use him anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's fine. Bad.
I don't know the army well enough to know what that difference is. Okay. So that's fine. The same snatch them up change here, and then just some other very small changes. They updated the Army of Renown Big Wasp spell to be unlimited, as it should have been always. So
here it is. Haywo mentioned that it used to be combat attacks.
Okay. Cool. There you go. I see. Yep. It no longer lasts forever and works on ranged damage now. Cool.
I like that.
Yeah. That's cool. Great.
Have a bunch of little crossbow shooting platform.
And also the timing got limited to now just be for the turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what else do we have? There's some just clarity here around a couple of items that just frequently asked questions. They're all fairly obvious. And I think, oh yeah, here we go. Can the Demon Prince from the Godmark Ascendant Regiment of Renown be given enhancements? Yes, because of this weird like sequencing of rules, they can. Which is cool. Good. I'm glad. It's neat. It's fun. This is obviously the Demon Prince that can go in anybody's army, right? Any Chaos person's army. So you can take like the Demon Prince and go join up with Khorne or whatever, which is good. And now they can have enhancements, so that's cool.
Sure.
What excited me about that regiment, Tom, it's one of the few regiments Renown I actually care about because I have a bunch of Slaanesh Demon Princes for my Slaanesh Demon army, right? Yeah. And so I was like, oh, cool, I can actually use that again. So this is actually nice because I can take an enhancement. It might be a leader I would actually think of putting in my Slaanesh army, to be honest. And then the clarification on, they updated the thing slightly for Archeon. Still the same basic premise.
Sure.
Okay. When will the meta just be attacks from my units and everyone else just needs to get on my level? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. How are you doing, Evan?
Can I also just briefly mention that we saw updates to Ravage Coast in here?
There was, yes. There was. I kind of blew over them, but yes.
That's exciting. Like, I'm touched because it shows that GW is actually doing some balancing for non-matched play.
Yeah. No, it's good. It is good. So there you go. That's the FAQ. That was long, but I think we got there. All right. Let's keep moving because we got a lot of show. All right, let's go to some pick of the week. Tom, what do you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked me. I am going to pick a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Tyler it.
Okay.
In just content, I'm going to actually highlight, where is it? It was literally right here. Nope. Is it gone now?
Do you want me to go while you're looking?
No, I mean, I have a couple different things I was going to pick, but I'll just pick, I've discovered a channel, 10 Point Turns.
Okay.
They have about 1,000 subscribers. And they have 8 videos, right? So not a lot out there. But I really appreciated his like basics of tactics and basics of deployment and basics of like, it's not anything that was news to me, but I appreciate this kind of content being out there for those that want to get better at these things.
Absolutely. No, that's cool.
So when I saw it, I was like, you know what? This is worth sharing for people. So that they can discover, for if you want to know how to do battle tactics, how to plan for your battle tactics, and also how to deny battle tactics. Here's a quick video that walks you through it in 15 minutes.
Nice. That's awesome. Notification says, thanks to Vince for reintroducing nards and tum tum to my vocab. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to help. Cool. That sounds awesome. Love that. Love that, Tom. And I mean, that's very good because people suck at deployment is my answer. Like,
Yep.
you could do a whole series like you suck at Photoshop for like you suck
Yep.
at AoS, and it could just be like, we're gonna start with deployment. Here you go.
He doesn't do deployment for every scenario, but it's the basic. Like his video, video on deployment is just the basics of deployment and what to pay attention to.
That's awesome. Look at you. I see you. Your opponent's is beating you on drops, and you're putting down a whole battalion. Stop it. That's Bush League. Bush League. You go to individual unit deployment immediately.
And not only that, you start with your prospectors.
Anything that's off table.
Because everybody knows where the prospectors are
Well,
going.
you start with what's off table. That's number one as an individual unit. Sure. Then you go to the things that don't matter at all. Only at the end, and then finally you're done, and then the good that you can deploy against their whole army.
And there is actually a really interesting catch-22 here, because if they move to deploying per like a unit out of
if they try to counter back at you, yeah, they
are required to do that entire regiment one drop at a time.
Which means that you then get into the fun game of how many units are in your regiments.
Right, which like my competitive list that I'm going to be running is a 3 regiment, but the first thing that I drop are my prospectors, which are only 2 units.
Sure.
Right, so I'm actually like
we got
3 units, or 3 units or 4 units if I'm slow dropping.
Sure.
So if they try to play the game, I can steal the drop war out from underneath players if they're not paying attention.
Sure. Anybody who's good enough to respond to counter program you like that is going to ask how many drops and do it the right way. But, it's a good thought. Okay. My pick of the week is for a very particular army, an army that has gotten a lot of hate on this channel, but finds itself, as we're about to find when we go in the stats, in a perhaps not the greatest place. That's what I want to say. And that is Lumineth Realm Lords. Recently, AoS Coach did a whole show talking to Lumineth Realm Lords, talking about the current state of it. They're in a bit of a rough spot. They had their cheating Huracan stuff, and that toy got broken by a change that I still support as being a good change. But it did mean that it exposed the underlying weakness of the army, because that was all they managed to. Basically, it's what they were completely riding on. So, yeah. There you go. And it's just a good video. And Coach talks about how can you make Lumineth good? So what can you do with that?
I realized that I didn't actually do the rest of the spruiks that I was going to do.
Oh, go for it.
There's a couple of events that I want to actually mention. I don't know if we do those. We don't often do events anymore. I don't know if we should be doing them in news or if we should be doing them in.
Why not? I'll give another news item when you're done. So go ahead.
Sounds great. The 2 events that I want to spruik. One is the 2nd annual Trash Clash in the Bluegrass here in Lexington.
Impossible to pronounce. Continue.
They are down to, I think, 8 or so tickets. It's in Lexington,
Kentucky.
It's in Lexington, Kentucky. Yep. They're a smaller event this year, but because we're in a new venue. But we have 8 tickets left, and I'm going to be there. Anthony Polcastro, Steve Herner, as well as a bunch of the actual trash Wargaming club. And so I want to invite our viewers to fill out that
the remainders
fill out our event. So, and then as well, we have another event in Dayton coming up here in May. So the month after is a 64 ticket event in Dayton, Ohio, and it's the GEM Wargaming Aether Force GT. I believe it's on Wright Pat Air Force Base or right next to it. And we'll have the links for those in the show notes as well.
Very nice. My last news item will be, I've mentioned this in passing at the end of previous shows, but we now have an affiliate link for Michigan Toy Soldier, so which is a really, really big hobby store out of, this might shock you, Michigan in the United States. Great shop, and there's a discount code you can use down there to get you 5% off anything you buy. So it's another great way to support the channel. Michigan Toy Soldier reached out, just good people, so happy to work with them. And provide that code. So if you're gonna looking for all your wargaming supplies, hobby supplies, all the what's nice about them is they carry all the weird stuff, Tom. Like if it's
I know.
their range
I
is
know.
huge. So
Yeah, I used to get my some of my paints. I could only get through them.
exactly.
I actually have 2 other spruks.
Wow.
I'm all over the place this time.
Go for it.
These showed up in the mail recently.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, I've
From
got
Battleworks. I'm guessing you got yours as well.
Boom.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, from Battleworks.
So if you all are looking for a nice set of measuring tools, Battleworks is the place to pick those up. So they do some etching, engraving.
Super cool thing. Has a little bird on it.
I know.
Little
That's
guy.
great. Yep.
Yes, I was very stoked when I opened this up.
I agreed. And then as always, I got a big order from them a week or so ago, Mini Stomp. If you all haven't been ordering your models from Mini Stomp, if you're not able to support a local hobby store and you have to order from online, make sure you're ordering from Mini Stomp. That's where I get my stuff from.
There you go. Very nice. All right, are we done with the spruiking? Have we spruiked our brains out here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
Trying to think if there's anything else that I need to be talking about.
I hope not. All right. So let's talk about some hobby time, my friend.
Should we just do commercial breaks at some point?
At some point, yeah, exactly. No, YouTube keeps trying to make me turn those on all the time. They're very concerned about it. All right, what have you been working on?
Well, I pulled the trigger on this Lexington event because I had friends that were like, "You should be at this," and so I'm there. And which meant that I had to actually think about competitive AoS, not just narrative play and Ravage Coast.
Sure.
And so I had to figure out a list, and I did, in a much shorter time than I actually anticipated I would be. And it involves me painting up 2 big pigs. So that's happening right now. So I'm doing some big pigs as well as a bunch of other orky terrain and endless spells. So
nice. For me, I finished up the night project I've been working on. So here we go. There he is. So pretty happy with how this guy came out. There'll be a couple videos that'll come out for this dude. This dude was a big experiment in obviously non-metallic metal. That's probably fairly obvious. He was also, and then, also the wings were a fun sort of different way to paint wings and stuff like that. And I'll just rotate through the pictures. But all in all, a lot of fun. The most non-metallic metal I have ever painted on a figure by absolute far, by a pretty wide margin. But yeah, I think it came out pretty cool. So all in all, it was fun to do like this amount of NMM, and I think it's pretty convincing from most angles. So it's pretty good. I think it's time. I got my what do I want to say? Like I had my distraction. It's probably now time I go back to Skaven. But at any rate, yeah, that's how he came out. There you go. So, anywho, that's been most of my hobby time, and yeah, excited about it. And now he's on a shelf, never to go anywhere again. He was like, I would love it if I could use this kind of thing for competition, but I can't. He's a 3D print. I think Anthony Polcastro gave me this model, so shout out to him. Thank you, buddy. This is a lot of fun to paint. But he was a 3D print. And he wasn't like, there's small defects, you know what I'm saying, in the print that I just couldn't fix, and so like just unfortunately means he can't go to competition. But he's a good learning and good thing to make a video out of, and so on. Yeah, exactly. I got to give John time to catch up. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Okay. Cool. Well, Tom, shall we move to the current meta and have a little meta discussion about what's been going on? Yeah?
Sure.
Okay. So, that means we need this guy. All right, so all these stats are courtesy of Warhammer, who rules and does a lot of hard work putting this all together. I linked Warhammer down in the description, so do go check them out. And support them or whatever you want to do, because they put a lot of work into these stats, and all of them are just really top notch in the way they provide this analysis. Okay, so this is all from February, by the way. So The meta, I think, has been evolving in some interesting ways since the battle scroll. Honestly, Tom, the overall picture right now is pretty well balanced if you look at it. Okay.
Define balanced. You mean
Within
between factions or
yeah,
inner
yeah, yeah.
factions? Okay.
Between factions, external balance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some stragglers. There are some real stragglers. We've got more really at the bottom than at the top right now.
Sure. Well, which is a good place to be, right? Like you'd rather people not running away at the top.
Sure.
You'd rather if there's a stream somewhere, you'd rather it at the bottom.
Yep. I like what really jumped out to me from the stats is that player skill is still the most determinative factor in AoS 4, like by far, which I think is a good thing. It goes to, I think Chris earlier had said, like, with the LRL interview, like, how did that person go 4-1 with that particular list, right? Well, because they're a highly skilled player playing an army, they know how to pilot, right? And that just makes so much of a difference. Huge difference.
Yep. Knowing what fights you can win, what fights you can't.
That's right. And I think that right now, if you look at it, a lot of the armies that are doing very well are either skews, as we talked about last week in list building, or the finesse armies. And like, because when the finesse armies are piloted by people with a high amount of skill, they find a high amount of success. That's what it comes down to. Not all finesse armies. There are some that are still struggling on the struggle bus for sure, because they just don't have enough of the tools. They have to play a finesse style and they're weak. But there are some that are much more finesse based but have the right set of tools to be successful with that path. So we'll get into the individual stats. What's your reaction to this sort of my overview of the current meta? Yeah, my assessment. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, my pushback is that at the end of the day, like when you talk about balance, like yes, inter faction, there's balance, but all those armies are doing the same thing.
Okay.
Like
unpack that.
Like what the lists look like generally at the top is literally like 360 clan rats and 2 heroes or whatever, right? Like it's a single highly efficient unit that's often spammed.
The skew lists, yeah.
The skew list ad nauseum. Like
I mean, it's not the Skaven list. You're because Skaven are terrible right now. But nonetheless, I take your meaning. The skew list.
Yeah, the skew list. And the reality is that the only exceptions to that are when you have when you like the finesse lists that are often Highlander, or they're way more like eclectic in their toolbox approach to army composition. And that's what it feels like your only options are. So yes, the factions are balanced, but what's being balanced is skew list against skew list.
Sure,
right?
or a very particular finesse list against another one. Yeah, no, I'm with that. That's fine. It's like the cast says I beat 300 Skaven by simply putting a chess clock on the table. Yeah, no joke. I mean, the reality is the internal balance is what's way off in this edition. That's just simply the reality of the thing. There are so many dead units in the books, and the lists are like fairly obvious. I think in most armies, as we said, about 2/3 of the armies, probably maybe 3/4, just like 1,500 points of the list builds itself.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I think that's the challenge. But let's take a look at the overall picture, because I mean, nonetheless, that the meta itself cares about like how the armies are doing holistically and against each other, right?
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is this: there's multiple comments talking about how they hate the skew list, like meta, and I agree. Like it is and it not only like somebody had said that it's not good for the local group. It really isn't good for the local group or anyone, because that means you have to buy a bunch of models that a list that is only going to be efficient for 3 months, 6 months. Yeah. Bart's Wargaming said, isn't that bound to happen as you remove abilities from War Scrolls? It's whatever the efficient unit is. That's what you bring. To some degree, but not necessarily. Okay. It isn't. It is a logical consequence. I agree with you. If you don't hedge against it in interesting ways. Yeah. Okay. So what I mean by that is like, okay, consider the mask. All right.
Like you can keep most units simpler as if it only takes one interesting ability for a unit to be interesting. Okay. What I
Sure.
mean by that is like you can keep most units. I like by units I mean, groups of people. Okay.
Yeah.
5, 10, 20 model units, the things you would think of when you say unit.
Yeah.
Infantry, cavalry, that kind of stuff. You can keep them interesting with maybe one rule. You don't really need more than that, right? To have them have some valid purpose in the overall roles they might want to play. For the heroes, especially foot heroes who are often forgotten, those actually aren't hard to make interesting. We have the template. And that's why I said consider the mask. The mask is amazing. The mask is not a wizard.
Sure.
Okay. Not a priest. Right? It can be a sub hero, a bonus hero, which is great.
Yep.
But I've often taken it not. I've often taken it as the leader of a regiment just because I want to get in the list so bad.
Yep.
And why is it interesting? Because it has a very effective, interesting, unique ability that forces my opponent, that gives me good choices and can force my opponent to make bad choices.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And there's no utility there. It doesn't buff another unit, right? Because the problem we had back in 2.0 and 3.0 was the pile 7 buffs onto a unit and shoot out Death Star A and then Death Star B and then Death Star C. I don't want to go back to that world. Okay, yeah. I really don't. I'm talking to Nico a lot about this recently. Okay, and I agree with him because he considers that like a really toxic environment, and I agree with him. Especially in a world where these heroes are often hard to target. But you could write a lot of those war scrolls, like especially foot hero or other things like that. Mm-hmm. Monsters, like non-ridden monsters could fall into this. Non-hero monsters, sorry, could fall into this as well. Where you just put actually relevant either self buffs or situational self utility on them where they can do interesting things. Could be movement based, could be objective control based, right? Like the single hero could suddenly count as 20 or something on an objective with a once per game ability or something crazy like that, right? Like I could write you right now 10 different abilities that would make small foot heroes interesting but not overpowered. Sure. But would give them utility. And they just haven't done that outside of, 3 or 4 in the whole game. And that's where we fail.
Oftentimes there are legacy abilities as well. They're abilities that have persisted through multiple editions.
Yep.
And they've inherited those interesting abilities. Those weren't written fresh.
Yeah, a good example of one that's new is the Brood Terror's ability, right? Where he has his quote unquote rampage is a 6-inch gas cloud that goes around him that's a big bubble of neg1 to hit that's reliably usable, right? So he doesn't have to directly be in combat to use that, and yet still he can have a presence on the battlefield that's synergistic, right? Yeah. He has an interesting debuff. Yeah. So self buffs, debuffs, utility, movement, objective control, or just, by the way, rocket the damage up. Like if you have a real butt kicker, Sigvold or something. Just
Eltharion makes it into lists sometimes because
just like push the damage. Like those foot heroes should just have like something that's really pushed, right? Yep. And so you don't actually need incredibly complicated war scrolls. You just need to understand that if you simplify everything down and you make the one rule they have boring, which is what we've done with a lot of the units, then all that's going to matter is what the numbers say across the line and what the weapon ability says. That's it. It's all that everything becomes about anymore. And what I see right now is a game bifurcated into 2 types of lists. Efficient spams of people with the good numbers and armies that can finesse list where they have enough unique ability still on scrolls that they can play the finesse game. There's about 6 armies in that latter category and a bunch of people trying to be in that, but like slaves is the pinnacle of the example of that, right?
Yeah. You're saying of the finesse list?
Of the power list. Right. Yeah. You have power list and finesse list, and they're one is just numbers. One is I actually have enough unique stuff going on that I can play the finesse game. Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So non-wizard foot hero interesting abilities. Paolo, I really let me tell you, question in the chat for everybody. Okay. Would you all want to see a show that basically amounts to fan fiction? because we've Tom, you and I have complained about things like heroic traits and artifacts and these abilities and stuff. Like we've had our complaints, and I say you could just rewrite them, and I wonder if people don't eventually look at me and go, "Why don't you put your money where your mouth is?" Right? So question for the chat: would people find it interesting if we did a show one week where like Tom and Vince rewrite some key rules from AoS, like, and actually create living examples of this stuff? I don't know if people would find that interesting or not, because it feels
design.
Yeah, like if people find it interesting, I'll do it. It always felt kind of like self-satisfactory to me, because you know what I mean. Like, what am I writing this for? Who's at like? Are they who's using this? But you know, there you go. It is very much just fanfic, right? So. Heywo says, I wrote 30 AoS commanders. Yes, I like fanfiction. Hey, whoa, those have more of a chance of being used in real life than anything I would write does.
It's true. You can proxy those.
Okay. All right. Cool. That seems like most people are pretty supportive of it, so all right, cool. Zach says there's a modicum of a chance that GW copies your homework. Yeah, sure. I mean, by all means, please take it. Okay. All right. Well, it seems like most people are supportive of it. So, okay. Cool. Okay. That's fine. We will do that for a future show. Gareth's comment.
I mean, got him.
This is both, could be, Gareth, my fear was that it's both non-interesting and like really
serving.
Like, yeah, just like I
self-promoting.
Thank you.
Self-aggrandizing.
Self-aggrandizing. That's actually exactly what I was looking for, Tom.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Perfect. Yeah, self-aggrandizing in a negative way. But if people are going to have fun with it, then we'll do it. Okay, cool. Great. We'll do it in the future. All right. Cool. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let's get into the specific data. Don't forget the super chats.
Are we going to do a GHB season? Is that what we're designing? Is the perfect GHB season?
I don't know. I'd rather kind of do heroic traits and artifacts and a couple heroes and monsters and stuff. Abilities, things like that. Seems more interesting. I don't know. A whole GHB season feels like you don't write that many rules into it, is my honest answer. Like, keep it minimal and I'm happy.
Yeah, indeed.
So, like, the GHB season is actually just make 12 good, interesting battle plans and have battle tactics that don't force your armies to do weird stuff. Right. Yes, exactly. Halo said the danger is the show is like playing Enchantress and Commander. Boy, you ain't wrong there. That is such a good analogy. All right. So, yes, hit like as we go into this next section and review the stats and all that. We will do that in the future. Subscribe. Don't forget your super chats there if you want to support the show, all of that. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. Thank you for the feedback. Okay. Let's get into some stats. All right. I know these, don't worry. It's only these first two slides. They're a little small. I apologize. They'll be bigger in the future. Let's see if I can actually, I bet I can actually make this one a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. Okay. So, Tom, our top two armies that are way outside percentage-wise, like, I mean, they are so far out of the box, don't actually count because they have so few games played. So this is Bone Slitters and Beasts of Chaos, right? Like, they're both armies to be retired, and they're both on the really low end. Now, ironically, Cruel Boys, by the by, had the same number of games played as Beasts of Chaos. Not a great sign for Cruel Boys.
I believe that.
Yeah. In before a tournament runs the Warhammer Weekly rule set after the video comes out. Do it, please. Yeah, thank you, Mayabi. Yeah, we'll write it up. Not that beasts aren't real. They still are. They're still a completely valid army. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, the people who are left playing beasts, as we'll see later on, are, like, very high skill players.
Sure.
Right? Like, as we'll look at on some of the later charts. Okay. And so, like, the people who have stuck with this and decided to take it to the end are people who are on, like, a victory lap playing this thing and are very skilled players pushing these guys up. So we don't really have enough data there to make a full decision. I wouldn't value the Cruel Boys data either when they're that low. If you're under 100 games played, that's just, like, really low.
Yep.
Okay.
But it should be indicative, right? Like, that is a red flag.
Yep. Tom, the Flesh Eater Quartz number. How about that one? 61%.
What? Mm-hmm. You know what that is? Ghoul spam. That's what that is.
That's a lot. And then Stormcast just outside of the bubble there with 705 games played. So pretty impressive for Stormcast to be that high. As we see later too, they actually have a decent mix of both sort of rookie and elite players. So
Yeah.
it's actually that's somewhat scary actually, maybe, because they are being somewhat drugged down by their rookie players, but we'll get into it. Then you get into, so you basically got two that are clearly outside of the the bound on top.
The golden medium.
Yep. Then you get that middle. I do want to point out that S2D is living like not far from the top. They're at 54%, but they are in the comfortable medium. And I think that's because the sort of heavy all hammer strategy, which is what Ogre Maw Tribes is running, which is what S2D is running, right? Which is what Suns is running. All of those have some hard counters, so it's very hard to actually get a 5-0 out of those.
Yep.
When I talked about like the finesse type armies, that's where I'm seeing things like your skewy type armies are flesh eaters. Stormcast have certainly been experimenting with some skew, though they can also play the finesse game. They're interesting in that they kind of do a little of both. You'll see both mixes. The Seraphon, the Fire Slayers, and the Heed Knights all end up sort of falling into more of the finesse type category, whereas the S2D, Flesh Eater Courts, Ogres all fall into kind of the skewy category, right? So again, I'm talking in general. I'm not talking like every list ever.
Yep.
You know, people have differences. Maggotkin being that high was actually really shocking to me. So good job, Maggotkin players. Not a huge number of games, but I love how like Fire Slayers and Heed Knights are just barely crossing the line right there with Daughters of Cain. Just the three armies no one's playing.
Yeah, all like low army or low armor, right? Naked people.
Exactly. Yeah, people with no, all people with no anvils or whatever, can't, very hard to take a punch, right? Want to play like the glass cannon game, want to play the trading game, doesn't work in the new edition, you know?
Nope.
So the exception for Heed Knights is obviously that they can also shoot a lot.
Right.
So there you go.
And yeah, the other armies don't have that as much.
Yep. So now let's talk about our bottom four, which is Lumineth. I don't have the Schadenfreude here. Okay. I really don't. Like, I know we've complained about Lumineth a lot over the years, but I didn't want to see him go down like this. That's rough.
Not like this.
Not like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Cygnus says it's hard being a nudist in the mortal realms. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree, Assistant Ref. I think IDK does not surprise me, by the way, being right at 55%. I think it's an incredibly good army. And I think, as we've said on the show repeatedly and multiple times, it is one of the most responsive to player skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So good players.
High skill feeling.
Absolutely. It's one of the few armies that still acts like that.
Yeah.
And I agree, it does have a lot of quality across the book. Okay. So Soulblight, which like whatever with Soulblight is my answer. Their new book is coming, in a hot minute, so whatever. They're going to completely change anyways.
Yep.
Theoretically they could, I guess. Who knows? We know we've got new manifestations and a terrain thing coming. If a new terrain thing is coming, probably they're going to get new battle traits or something. What kind of book will it be? How much of a rewrite will it be? Who knows? Okay, who knows? But we'll see. The point is they're on the precipice of some amount of change.
Yep.
Speaking of change, your next one down at 43%, the Disciples of Tzeentch. The various and sundry nerfs they've taken to the face, apologize, have clearly resulted in weaker army. These guys went from like way up to way down. And it's clear that the Zangor lists can't carry the weight. Right. And then at the very bottom, the worst performing army at 41%. My beautiful little rat boys. Still the most fair army in Warhammer.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I played at Havoc this year.
Yeah. Soulblight, the chaff army, doesn't work in a hammer meta. Yeah, you're not wrong. It is shocking that a 20-point nerf to Rattling Guns plummeted the Skaven win rate that hard.
Right. It shows how much they were carrying them.
Absolutely. Because I don't think it was enough of a nerf to Rattling guns, is my honest answer. I thought they should have been 190. Like, honest answer. And so, yeah, but I mean, geez, what a thing. As someone who's played a ton of Skaven, this doesn't actually surprise me that much. It's a hard army to pilot.
It is very hard.
It struggles for actual damage. Like, the reason people all took the Rattling guns was because most of your things you think would do damage don't actually and are very fragile. Like your Rat Ogres going back down to 4 wounds and a 5-up save just makes them fragile as heck. If you don't happen to pop the 5-up ward on them, they just get shredded, right? Your clan rats aren't there for damage, right? Yep. A lot of your artillery is like minimally damaging. So it's just an army that really struggles to both do any damage and not just get lifted in a meta full of killer hammers.
And it's also the starter army.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of, if you look at that, when we get to the like elite newbie ratio breakdown chart, yeah, you're going to see a lot of people playing this army who are new.
What's actually fascinating is that like there is a very real curse for your the starter box army. Mm-hmm. Like it has consistently been that way for every edition, 4 editions in a row. And so part of the data is just simply it's new players. Like it's flooded with new players, but that doesn't explain all of it for this army.
Yep. I agree. And we'll get into some of the detail. Okay, so that's kind of the general landscape of the thing, right?
Yep.
All right, next slide is win rates with the skill evened out. Okay, if it takes it and normalizes if all player skill was even. And what's interesting there is Flesh Eater still goes outside the bounds. Okay. Yep. And a lot of other armies drop down. The things that still fall out the bottom are Disciples of Tzeentch and Skaven. So this is normalized for player skill.
Yep.
So you can see that Skaven, like, what's interesting about this chart is it gives you an interesting insight into where player skill is making a huge difference. For example, as the aforementioned Beasts of Chaos go from like busting the fat middle to 48%.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And so like, yes, this is always, as Assistant Ref said, the math behind the skill normalization here is pretty iffy, but it does give a general idea. Yeah. To me, I mean, with all stats, okay, like, let's just understand these things are presented as a single number, but they should never be interpreted as that, as like the Warhammer stuff all says in the fine print or whatever, right? There's always range to it. There's always some amount of assumptions that are baked in. So you have to treat these things as directional, but that doesn't make them any less interesting, right? If you've got an army that has a win rate of 50%, that means it's actually somewhere in that like 2-3 point swing on either side, something like that. Okay. I know these first two Harrow are a little hard to read. I apologize. Don't worry. The next charts they get bigger once they get more square. These were just really long charts. I should have just cut out the middle. So how do they normalize it? They have a player ELO that they're utilizing based on tournament win rates and stuff like that. They sort of, you can reverse engineer an ELO. This normalizes the ELO out to 430.5. If you look back here, you can see the average ELO for like Beasts of Chaos is way up at 539, right? Whereas the Cruel Boys and the Skaven average ELO is like 398, 414, so below the average.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's what they're doing here, and they're using that to get yes, it's like they say in Doctor Who, it's bigger on the next slide. Yes. At any rate, I found this one really interesting because I think this really does highlight that we still potentially have a challenge with FEC, and we definitely still have a challenge with Tzeentch and Skaven, right? Because even normalized, they still suffer.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, otherwise most people kind of still stay in roughly the same area. It was funny to me that Nurgle didn't even move a percentage point. Neither did S2D. Just locked in. Just 54%. That's where we are. Which tells me you've got a good mix of players playing that thing. That it's the faction's already basically operating as per average ELO. Yeah. It's diversified out enough. Okay. All right. bigger text. Look at this one. Okay, much easier to read. Here we go. This one was an interesting one, Tom. Battle formations. So this actually breaks down the battle formation win percentage. Notably, this is only for subfactions which had more than 100 games played. Okay? So to get on this list, like a subfaction that had 7 games played, or, well, 10. There you go. Wouldn't be a multiple of, that'd be a weird multiple. It'd have to be a multiple of sort of 5, basically, unless there's drops and stuff. But anywho, 100 games is the floor to get in here. If you look up top, what's really interesting to me, Tom, is so first of all, the Lords of the Manor, 251, 61% win rate. This is just the dominant choice in fleshy.
And those are your Morbeg.
Yeah. Yep. And this is just the dominant thing by far. Now, what's fascinating about Stormcast is, look, you've got Vanguard Wing here, 57. You got Sentinels of the Bleak Citadels at 56. Yep. You've got Lightning Echelon at 52, right? So Stormcast is just popping up all over the place here.
They have some options.
They have some options. I thought that was fascinating. Idneth is the Akelian Beastmasters. That's theirs that's breaking the thing here. Looking down at the bottom of the chart, everybody's trying to make the most out of Weird Flame, and it's not working because burning isn't very good. Right?
Not anymore.
And then Soulblight is doing the Bacchanal of Blood down here. Also not working. And then Lumineth Realm Lords with the Venari Battle Host. The reason, by the by, I suspect Skaven isn't on here is because they had relatively low uptick. And I'm guessing you had a pretty even split between Warp Cog and Fleshmeld, which kept either of them from hitting 100.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then some factions didn't even get 100 games in. Looking at
sure. This is just the ones at 100 games. I did like to see, Tom, something you're a big fan of. Did you notice that Sylvaneth kind of dead there in the middle? Lords of the Clan.
I did.
Yep.
That was my build.
Absolutely. Who doesn't like Lords of the Clan is definitely the fun one in Sylvaneth. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Nurgle was using the Tally Band of Nurgle for their thing. So there you go. I also found it fascinating that in Gloomspite, Squigalanche was still more winning than Trogherd.
Well,
I thought that was.
I think it's because people like squigs. Like, this is just volume, right? Like of play, and people like their squigs.
Yeah, there were less by count. Yeah. Right, there are only 116 Squigalanche, but there are 131 Trogherd, so more people are playing Trogherd, but it's got a lower win rate. I mean, not hugely. Yep. They're both in the middle, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Haywo. Like, why people ask why didn't the Ogre one get on here? And I agree with Haywo. Like, buying 7 Stonehorn at the drop of a hat is probably a limiter, or Thunder Tusks or whatever. I think it's just production meta, probably slowing things dodown. Again, the Harrower says. Meta.
Like, buying into a skew like that is really difficult.
It is. The Harrower says, S2D didn't make the list. Is there their subfaction? What is there? Is there a subfaction aside from God's Wrath? I mean, I think all the subfactions in S2D are so bad, I think people just don't care, and so have split around on different ones.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Okay. Cool. So I thought that one was interesting. Zinj is in a rough spot because Weird Flame is definitely their best subfaction, and their best subfaction sucks.
Yeah.
It's the same with Lumineth, by the way. Like, Venari is now currently their best option, and Venari is pretty bad right now. It's just not built for the current meta.
Don't say that. That's what I like. If I wasn't playing Cruel Boys, that's what I'd be rolling Venari Lumineth.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you're a skilled enough player. You could at least do 3-2, Tom, and beat the odds.
Yeah, well, that would be the hope, man. 3-2, so I don't walk home. That's exactly why I'm playing locally, so that if I do have to walk,
so if you have to walk, it's a short walk. Yeah,
right.
You can just Uber at that point, easy. That's right. I didn't say when that rule was made. I don't even think Uber existed. So you could Uber, sure, certainly. Now the rule is 3 wins or you Uber home, which is going to be really expensive from Chicago to Kentucky. So there you go. Okay. Next. Boop. All right, so this one is the one I want to spend a little bit of time on. I thought this was a really fascinating slide. So, Tom, this is the breakdown of elites versus rookies. Okay.
Sure.
And so it's looking at like it's using sort of ELO, right, as its percentage and whatever. And my point about Beasts of Chaos, boy, look at the elites, right?
Yep.
63% of its players more than are in the elite category, right? Have a more than 500 ELO.
Yep.
It's crazy, right? The rookies, by the way, are on the other side of the coin.
Sure.
So,
yeah. They're orange.
Low
Got
ELO.
it.
Yeah. Cygnus says 2 wins equals a Greyhound. 1 win, you've got a hitchhike. There you go. 0 wins, you just, I don't know. I guess you live in that city now. You don't get to go home. Ineth, again, same situation, right? Look at the elite players. That's elite players recognizing that army is going to respond to skill. Okay.
Yep.
Cities Sigmar also way up there, which was fascinating, although they have a big fat rookie tail as well.
Yep.
Same with Disciples of Tzeentch. So I just thought this was a really interesting breakdown, especially where you get longer rookie tails and shorter ones, right? Like Flesh Eater Court's only 24% elite, but only 4% rookies. No one's starting their Flesh Eater Courts. Not a lot of new people coming in with it, right? Because this also kind of shows you where's the heat, where's the movement, where's the people bringing their
like
either newer players or more rare tournament players, tournament players, so on.
Like KO or anybody that's weathering KO right now is seasoned. They know what this is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. 15% and 3%. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
They are Longbeards indeed.
What did any of these like really jump? I mean, the KO one is obviously, it jumps out in a big way. But did anything else jump out at you? Because there are 2 of them I want to highlight, but I want to see what you pull out.
Cruel Boys.
Okay, so our Cruel Boys at 7% elite and 20% newbies. Obviously, the rest, by the way, is just people who fall in the middle of the ELO rating, because this is cutting the middle out. Yeah.
All of the skill has fled Cruel Boys.
Yes.
So most likely, if you're playing Cruel Boys in an event, you're a bad player now.
Well, or you're an average player. No, that is still the most likely. Only 27% is either a rookie or elite.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yep.
If you run up against Beasts of Chaos at an event, there is a 3 in 5 chance, basically,
but they are murderers,
that you are running up against somebody who's about to kick your teeth down the back of your throat. Okay?
Correct. Yeah.
If you run into a Cruel Boys player, basically there's a 2 in 3 chance that they're a completely average player, right? Just like that's what that math actually shakes out to. Okay. So, I'll highlight the 2 that jumped out at me that really surprised me. Okay. The first one was Stormcast being 23% elite and 12% rookie. It does often feel like Stormcast, as we say, is a noob army, and yet not really here. There are lots of armies with more rookies in its ranks. And I think that's because a lot of elite players have recognized that the variance of what Stormcast allows right now is pretty high. Like I said, it can play to both the skew meta or to the sort of finesse meta, and it's got some options. I think that's pretty interesting. Next one. Fire Slayers. 26% rookies? Who are these newbie Fire Slayer players? What is this? Given low number of games, but still.
Who is insane enough? That's what I want to know.
I mean, they only have 27 logged in, so that's pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, man, that, God bless you, new Fire Slayers players. Good for you. Good for you. And then the other one I wanted to point out that's skewed even worse in that direction is OBR, man. Look at OBR. 30% rookies. That compared to only 12% elite. I think that's another one where, like, you can look down at the bottom and, yeah, it's like Ironjaw's, Daughters, SPG, Skaven, Cruel Boys. Like, just the elite players have just abandoned these armies, right? Like, just wholesale. So yeah, 30% on Osiarch Bone Reapers. That blew my mind. Blew my mind. How? Yeah. Who? Yeah. What?
Wild.
It really is. Yeah, the Ogre Maw tribes, Tom. Did you see that one? 2% newbies, 2% rookies, and 22% elite players. So, I mean, what that says, you got a lot of average. Like, again, the majority is still average players.
Still more average, yeah.
Yeah. Mergonk. Good call. 2 battle forces back to back. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, Mergonk.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Okay. So, anyways, I thought this was a really fascinating chart. I like seeing where kind of the energy is, because the more rookies you get, it's an indicator that there's a lot more interest among newer players in that army, right? Who are picking them up, going to tournaments.
Why Fire Slayers? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. What this says is like, ogres, not a lot of new player interest right now. No. Caradron Overlords, not a lot of new player interest right now, right? This is not, people ain't picking these things up for the first time.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Sylvaneth, perfectly balanced, 16% and 16%, as all things should be. Excuse me, everybody. Okay. Next chart. Okay. Faction victories. Faction popularity. This is broken down by number of wins. You with me? So yep. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Color coded across. So on the left, your blue is your number of wins. Now I'm just going to show this one real quick so we can reference it. I'm actually going to jump to the next slide, because the next slide is a little more like, this is important underlying information to understand.
Sure.
When we go to the context of the next slide. Okay. So, for example, Skaven, 0 5-0s. 5 4-1s, 14 3-2s, 17 2-3s, 15 1-4s, and 8 0s. 8, Tom. 8 0 wins. You might ask yourself, is that the highest on the table? The answer is yes, tied with Disciples of Tzeentch.
Fascinating.
Okay. Now, again, this is by count. So it's a little harder to kind of interpret. By the way, your Cruel Boys.
I know, I see them.
Double zeros, Tom. 0 5s, 0 4s. Rough.
So you're saying if I go 3 and 2,
you are with Cruel Boys, you are punching at what is of these stats is the highest performance. Yes, within this tournament window, within this data window.
Fascinating.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Noted.
So, the real fun ones are like the one person with Sons who went 5-0 in this period, or the one person with Caradron Overlords, right? The heroes of each faction, the one Fire Slayers. That's really fun. The Stormcast, despite its popularity, and this is why I wanted to kind of get in, I wanted to frame the count one first. Obviously, by simply, you look at this faction popularity, what you see, this really very directly maps how many people are actually taking these armies to tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And you look here, and what you see is S2D is the most 5-0ing army within this data period. Right?
Yep.
But at 6 5-0s, nobody else has 6. But they have a much smaller 4-1 and a pretty fat 3-2 and 2-3 range.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And in my estimation, that's people playing heavy hammer lists and not really piloting them to the level they could be piloted at. Yes.
Yep. They're getting caught in traps. And they're getting outplayed.
Yep. Whereas Stormcast, you only have 2 5-0s, but you got 28 4-1s. That's a lot of 4-1s to put on the board.
Yep.
That means they were all in pole position, right? Like those are people who were playing for the 5-0 for the win, right?
Yep.
Okay. Brian says Stormcast might be taken more if everything wasn't always sold out. Oh boy. Yeah. The other thing that's interesting here, by the by, as pointed out, thank you, Dotification, for saying it, because I wanted to say it too. Notice that both of the top 2 armies are like 3+ save armies that can also deal heavy damage.
Yeah. It's amazing what 3+ save does for you.
Right. But it can't be that alone. Like some of the other
Right.
people on this list can have saves like that, right?
Right.
But they're like, yeah, they're universally 3-up saves that also deal heavy damage, right? And have some kind of mobility trick usually.
Yep.
Okay. So, like, I just thought this was fascinating to kind of set the stage, right, of the numbers. So when we understand on the next slide, we can come back here, but let's look at the next slide, because this turns it into a percentage heat map. Okay. Here, I'll move this up so people can see it a little better. Sorry. So here's where you get your percentage breakout. Your ideal expected result. Yeah.
Yep.
Breaking this out would be like 3% 5-0s and 3% 0-5s countering each other. And then 16, 16, and 31, 31, right? That's just, in other words, like how the math would work if you were hitting at the ideal win rate for a faction.
Sure.
If everything were perfectly balanced. Okay. If you break this down by percentage of wins, it gets really interesting, because then what flips up top is your beasts, your Idneth, your Heed Knights, Flesh Eater Courts, even Iron Jaws, right? But then you have the difference of how far do they go, and that's how you recognize, right, both the presence of player skill getting in that army,
yeah,
right, as well as the challenge of piloting it. Yeah. So like Heed Knights has a good player ELO on average, but it's a very tough army to pilot. So it has this really tight 5-0, 4-1 category, and then it's mostly 3-2s and 2-3s, right? Whereas your Flesh Eater Courts goes much deeper in the 4-1 territory, right? Being more like a spammy type list. So I thought this one was really interesting. Obviously, the Bone Splitters makes everything look weird, but like, okay, there's only 3 things that doesn't really count, right? Sure. All your 0% 5-0s are Daughters, Bone Reapers, Skaven, Nighthaunt, LRL, SPG, and Cruel Boys. Those are your 0%ers, right?
Yep.
What's fascinating about this split is that when you split it by the faction victories percentage of the wins, right? Who went 5-0? Okay. S2D comes way down because it's such a highly played faction.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got this huge middle ground on it. But yeah, I thought this one was interesting because the two of those against each other gives you a good picture, right? Of where this is like, here's your popularity
what's
chart.
Problematic and what's not.
Exactly. So there you go. That one KO winner at 5-0, 3% of the total thing there. So well done. Well done, one person.
That's a king right there.
Anything else jump out to you on this one?
Not particularly.
The couple things that jump out to me are the other end of the chart. So the green end.
Yeah.
Where people are falling below the 05s, because you just like where you're down at 0% 05s. Nighthaunt, OBR, Fire Slayers, okay? All at 0%. Then you've got other ones that are real low in that regard. Okay. Stormcast with only 2%, right? So and then your absolute King of the Ring in your 3-2, right? So having the winning record, right? Just like getting the winning record, going 3-2. Your absolute King of the Ring in the 3-2 category, Maggotkin of Nurgle.
It's fascinating.
Isn't it? Would you have guessed that? I wouldn't have. Right? Like, I would...
You're saying at least 3-2? Or
at least 3-2. No, I'm saying 48% of their lists are 3-2s.
Wouldn't Beast of Chaos be the king? Because they're 5s, 4s, and 3s added together.
No. I'm taking the gray bar alone.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I thought you were
Yeah, I
taking
see
the
what I see
blue,
your
orange, and red.
confusion. Yeah, yeah. I'm not talking about from 3-2 up. I'm saying who's good at getting into the 3-2 and then dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting
Magic.
3 wins and no more than 3 wins is
Correct.
what I'm finding interesting, right?
Yep.
Because that says something about the people who dominate this category, the 3-2 category, the gray box.
Yeah.
That means they're playing the most rock scissors paper,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Nurgle at 48% is like the most rock paper scissors army.
You know what I love looking at?
What's that?
A quarter of the Cruel Voice players win 0 games.
Well, there wasn't that many of them, to be fair. It was a very small number, but
A
yes,
quarter of them.
sure. Mm-hmm.
1 in 4
Mm-hmm.
walk home with nothing, with wooden spoons. They are literally
Rough.
dressed in rags carrying wooden spoons. That is their army.
Sure. Yeah. You can also tell like what's going on, how much DPS is in the meta by where suns fall.
Sure. They
Okay.
move up and down based on the damage. Yeah.
Like, are they more in the 3-2 bracket or more in the 2-3 bracket? Is your surest sign, right?
Yeah.
Of how much DPS is in the meta, right?
Yeah. It's true.
It is the canary in the coal mine. And the fact that Suns, the 2-3 is beating the 3-2 tells you we're in a high DPS meta.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're just that giant DPS check. That's it.
Yep.
I have to believe that the Nurgle is doing it on Blight King spam, probably, from what I've seen, but I don't know.
Sure.
Okay. So I thought this one was fascinating, especially when paired with the other one.
Yeah.
Again, more evidence that like Idneth, Heed Knights, really finessey armies that can do really well. And they're an interesting counterbalance to me to the like oops all hammers, smash them skew lists, right?
Yep.
Because they don't tend to be that as much. They're a little more fragile, right? So that's true. Haywo said, and also number of objectives to a lesser degree. That's a good point, Haywo. Also true. If you end up in like an average 5 objective meta, then Suns go down in quality as well. Totally fair. Okay. Next chart. Boop. Wait, what happened here? I don't know. Sorry. I didn't. There we go. The next one is just what they call the Fabian chart. So it normalizes the 4 1s and 5 0s into one category just to make it easier to read. Because the point is, and I think this is one of their one of the people at Warhammer, Fabian, makes a good point that like if you're in a 4-1, you're playing for the 5-0.
Not always. That's not true.
Right?
No, it's
you're
not.
right.
Like
you're
if
right.
you've lost the game, if you've lost the game on any game other than the last one, that's patently not true. You're submarining.
Yeah, that's totally you're totally right. The point here being that like the 4-1 is actually like sort of the thing, right? That puts you into that position where you could have been the sort of one bad matchup or one bad thing or whatever. G Will, thank you for the super chat. Sorry I'm late to the party. Why is Beasts of Chaos doing so well, and what happened to Nighthaunt and Disciples of Tzeentch? Sure. So Beasts of Chaos is doing well because 63% of their players are elite players that are absolute butt kickers. Like there's a very small number of people playing them, and they are all straight killers. That's the answer to that. Nighthaunt has been nerfed repeatedly, and a bunch of elite players fled the faction. Like that's an interesting aspect of like bringing balance to a faction, even if they're now in line. When you multi-nerf an army, it does make elite players just abandon the army.
Yeah.
They had a very low elite player rating, and Disciples of Tzeentch, very similar sort of situation. They've been nerfed a lot and don't have a huge amount either. Okay. And yes, also because Bestigors are broken. That's true too. That is true too.
Bestigors are the best gores.
Yes. So anyways, this is interesting because it does normalize that out to like sort of the top tier, right? So it gets rid of the 5-0, which you've been in 4-1 position many times where you had 4 wins straight and you were playing for the 5-0. Yeah. And you know that like in that last game, sometimes it breaks your favor, sometimes it doesn't, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, This one's it's effectively the same chart. It just gives you a more clear picture of what's going on, right? And you really do see you've got that really brutal area down there. Cruel Boys still at 0%. Yeah, SBG suffering again. The sort of attrition chaff army just doesn't work in the current meta. Yeah. Lumineth struggling, Nighthaunt struggling. Again, there are elite players left and they've been nerfed multiple times. Skaven struggling, OBR, Tzeentch, all these things, right? Way down there. Yep. The fascinating one to this one is on the other chart, your Heat Knights are way up top and then they dropped way down. Because they're the weird one that's like 8% 5-0s, 4% 4-1s. Most people playing Slaanesh just struggle to clear 3-2.
Yep.
Right? This was early February, Harrower. So a couple weeks back. Yeah. Anyways, so I thought this was interesting in how it sort of again another angle on the same story. Okay, and that's it. That's what I got. That's this is the bottom of the charts. So overall, Tom, like, what's your sort of summary and thoughts on the meta and where it stands?
It's real brutal for some armies.
Yeah,
and at the same time, like the top, it looks pretty healthy.
Yeah, I think we're in an interesting place where overall there's a good number of armies. Again, probably like 2/3 to 3/4 of the armies out there that are pretty competitive. We don't have a lot of bunker busters on the top side.
Yeah,
really. Like you could play many tournaments and never play a Beast of Chaos or a Bone Splitter's army or whatever, right?
Sure.
Like that's because they're just so rarefied. So you're really talking about two forces that are sort of having perhaps a bit too strong right now. But you've got like 6 armies at least, maybe 7, that are really weak right now, right? So what that tells me is what we got to focus in on, what I hope they focus in on for the next battle scroll, is buffing up the weak people more than nerfing the strong people, right?
Yeah.
Things like Tzeentch could use some love across a lot of their units, OBR, Skaven, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Lumineth, certainly. And it's rough because a lot of those armies that are down there were nerfed heavily, right?
Yeah, I mean, Cruel Boys took multiple kicks, right?
Yep. The problem is they didn't get compensation.
They got nothing.
And then what happened is the bottom just fell out because there was nothing. Once the only good things they had got nerfed, they just cratered. Right.
Everything's at half points. Go.
Sure. And I think, as we said at the top, the other thing I would want to see focused on in the battle scroll and in design in general, especially as the books roll out, is that our internal balance is just way off. And if the proof in the pudding is that at the start of the edition, Lumineth, Nighthaunt, Tzeentch, and Cruel Boys were 4 of the top armies.
Yep.
And now they're all at the bottom.
Right.
Why? Because bad internal balance. There are things that were bent, got fixed, and they cratered.
Right.
That tells me we have really bad internal balance. Because whenever we hammer the thing that is truly problematic and like should have been fixed, okay,
there's nothing to actually step into the gap.
Exactly.
Right.
That's right. And so like that's a problem.
Yeah. It is.
Because if we end up in a cycle where armies are going like, I'm way up here because I have something overperforming, it gets properly fixed, and then I'm at 43%. Right? If we keep having armies bounce from 57 to 43,
right,
based on like 2 or 3 changes, even if those are like quasi minimal changes, that's problematic.
Majorly problematic.
And so I think the other lesson here for them going forward is when you're doing those nerfs, you got to go in at the same time and buff other stuff. You just have to.
Yep.
We can't treat this as a one-sided scale, right? And so I think this was really, like, I really wanted to do this show because it really clarified in my mind a lot of how I was, like, a lot of my thoughts on the meta, on internal balance, external balance, where the problems actually lie right now. And I really do think, to me, what this shows is we don't have that many people pitching outside, and our major focus should be on internal balance, buffing bad units, giving more functionality to more things in the books that are more appealing. Probably expanding list building to some degree so that I can continue, so I can actually take those units in there, because some of those units aren't being used because they're bad, and some of these units aren't being used because list building prohibits it, right? More than I need to see more nerfs. That's what I think. That's where I'm living. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it is. It is. Man, it's so painful watching some of these armies get kicked down, and they're just nothing for them to get picked back up.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, by the way, we saw it with ogres too, right? Ogres started very strong, cratered, and then they got back some rules. They got buffs to some of their other units, and now they're like back up in the middle. They're not like crazy overperforming or anything. You know, if you've played like the 8 monster truck list, it is pretty wild as they just multi-ball around the board, right? But like, that's a good example of somebody who went on that journey and is already now back up at the top, or back up in the, where kind of a, definitely not the top. That's very wrong. But again, the internal balance in that book still sucks.
Yeah. There's not a lot of gluttons running around.
I mean, you could pick 10 other examples, right?
Sure.
I mean, like, there are some gluttons running around. You could have picked, man-eaters or half of their hero section. Okay. Yeah. And that's true for basically every army, right? Saying half of their hero section isn't used, you got to give me more than that, man. That's every army right now.
Yeah, certainly.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're not wrong, Brian. All right, so at any rate, yeah, I mean, anything else you want to leave it on? I think this sets us up for what we need to see in the battle scroll. And in my mind, Tom, next month or whatever, because we expect one at the end of March or whatever.
Yeah.
I would expect it like after Adepticon, because they want to probably release it before Adepticon and throw chaos into that event. So that's in my mind how they're going to think about it, right?
Yeah. To get feedback from Adepticon and to like have a running hypothesis.
Nothing about what would happen at Adepticon will change things. These things have a 4-week translation and everything cycle. So like, it's getting locked probably right now.
That makes
timing
sense.
wise. Okay. They just don't want to disrupt Adepticon by putting something out when people have already locked submitted lists to one of the bigger tournaments of the year, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, that's in my head. I don't know if they'll think that way, but that's how I would think. So hopefully they do as well. And to me, this created this data creates the yardstick by which we should judge it. Did it buff the weaker armies? Did it help internal balance? For the nerfs, did we counterbalance those against the... Did we supply buffs to the other units when we nerfed the things that were problematic?
Yeah.
Right? If those 3 things are true, then it's a successful battle scroll in my mind. This gives us the evaluative tools to actually measure it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right. But what are your thoughts on the Emperor's Children, Vince? Honestly, I don't like them very much, aesthetically. I saw the rules leaked. I really don't play 40K right now, so I can't evaluate the rules. But I honestly don't love the models very much. They kind of didn't land for me. Too many cone heads. Too many kind of weird designs. I don't know. Like, the Slanesh demons are always what have gotten me. I think there could have been a version of it that I liked, but it wasn't this version. I think, what's his name? The Fulgrim looks pretty cool. Or whatever. Okay. Cool. Tom, I have a little surprise for all of our viewers. Okay. At the end of the show. If you stuck around at this point, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. Adam and I talked this week. There's been a lot of discussion around, like, because we're finalizing up the game. We're not going to give away what the game is, But Adam and I settled on a hint this last week that we can give you. So I've got a hint for Snarling Badger Studios' next game, which we'll be releasing in May. So here's the hint, folks. Everybody ready for the hint since you stayed towards the end? You have to hit like and subscribe and do fun things that make dings. Okay, did you do that? All right, great job. Good, here we go. The hint is, our next game is a brutal sci-fi fantasy miniatures agnostic skirmish game. I will say it one more time. A brutal sci-fi fantasy miniatures agnostic skirmish game. There you go. That's the hint. More to come.
And you might get it in May if I get development done.
Yes. So there you go. Tom, hey buddy, good times as always. Appreciate you. For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. As I said before, on the way out, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and do all those fun things to make dings. Thank you to everybody who dropped a super chat in. It really helps support the show. Don't forget about the new Michigan Toy Soldier coupon code. You get 5% off on all your hobby supplies down there, as well as all other links, Amazon and everything else. All that stuff really does help support the show in a big way. And of course, there's also our Patreon and our merch store and other things. So we appreciate all the support. At any rate, Heywo says Robot Jocks ? Boy, I would kill for the Robot Jocks license. Absolutely. Anyways, thank you all so much. Battletech. Is anybody using that license? Street Sharks? Who's got these licenses? They got to be available, right? At any rate,
Barnyard Armies, or what was that?
Sure. Thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.